Greetings everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias. A month on from Blade Show, what do you say it's time we talk about one of the things that I purchased? Let me introduce you to one of my favorite knives at Blade Show, a balisong that so thoroughly impressed me in such a way that I haven't been impressed in such a long time. The AMKW, or Andrew Meyer's Knife Works, Aeon V2. This thing absolutely rocks, and in the next 15 minutes or so, I hope to tell you about why I think that, and maybe even convince you to get one for yourself, because I think that this is a really special balisong that a lot of people are missing out on for one very specific reason. And that's because I don't think people realize just how little this thing costs. So, the Andrew Meyer's Knife Works Aeon V2. To explain to you why I own this, I have to explain to you what I was looking for from Blade Show to begin with, because Andrew Meyer's is a knife maker who's newer to the game and who I haven't been familiar with until the last year or so in terms of his knife. In terms of his knife making. Obviously, I've been aware of him as a modder for the years that he has been making some of the best anodizations and mod work in the game. But I didn't really understand what was super special about his knives that he made until the Aeon won Balisong of the Year last year at my Bally Awards. And even after it won, I still had to ask the question, what makes this so special that everyone was willing to vote for it in droves? Because I genuinely didn't understand. It's not that I disagreed, I just wasn't familiar with Andrew Meyer's game. That is until I tried a Peon for myself, courtesy of Ted, a few months ago. And you guys have seen that video. You can go back and watch it. The Peon was incredibly impressive. And it was one of the things that I wanted to look at Blade Show. I had like a very rough spending limit for myself at Blade Show. Not out of necessity, just more out of, I'm not going to go crazy. It's going to be a chill year. And then I went crazy and bought 3 knives. And part of that is because of this knife right here. So how did that happen? Well, I went to Blade Show looking for 3 balisongs. I wasn't sure if I was even going to buy any balisongs, but I knew I wanted to look at 3. The Peon, the Totori, and a standard run-of-the-mill cracker-rackin'. Specifically a Tonto one, because I wanted a Tonto one for a little bit now. I want a Kraken that's not, my beautiful 1/40 Damascus Bowie knife that they haven't released since then, even though they've done the Tonto a few times. And so I went over to Andrew Meyer's knife booth to check out the Peon. It was probably the thing that I was like, if I'm going to buy anything, it's probably going to be a Peon. It's got that incredible ring to it. It sounds awesome, it looks awesome, it feels awesome. It's a great value for what it is. I know people think that $350 is expensive for an aluminum balisong, and it kind of is, but you get that Andrew Meyer's level quality in that price. And I was like, okay, that feels like a no-brainer. I mean, the Aeon is $1,000 after all. I just could never spend that much on a single balisong. It's just a lot. And I would love to own something from Andrew Meyer's. So I get to the booth and I flip the Peon, and then I notice the other things that he has on his table. The Aeon V2, and this was the number one thing that I got at Blade Show, because if you saw me at Blade Show, I was carrying this thing. There was a lot, usually I'll pick different knives every few hours to have in my pocket so that people can try things or that I can show them or whatever the case may be. If you saw me at Blade Show after midday on Saturday when I bought this thing, I was carrying the Aeon V2. There was nothing else in my pocket all weekend. There was maybe some stuff at the bite handle rave, but I still had my Aeon on me. This thing, whew. But the number one thing that I got was, wait, you bought one of those? I thought they were like $1,000. No, dear viewer, they are not. The Aeon V2 comes in at a record-setting $450 for this. G10 scales, double G10 scales, titanium liners, Nitro V blade, Andrew Meyer's quality. You can get hand ground sharpened blades for $50 extra. You can get a sharp blade for no extra. I went for an unsharpened blade just because I feel like I have enough live blades at this point, and I don't flip them as much as I flip my trainers. I do flip live blades, but just not very often, because the risk of just having band-aids on my hand at all times doesn't really outweigh the fun factor of flipping a live blade. I don't know. I've never really found flipping live blades much more fun than trainers, but to each their own. Anyway, $450. Holy cow, what a steal. Flipping these things, because he had a few of them on his table to show off, I was reminded of another time that I went to Blade Show and was completely impressed by a balisong that I really didn't know anything about. And that balisong, which I just spoiled a few moments ago, is the Slift V2. I kind of see this thing as more similar to the Slift V2 in a lot of different ways. You know, as you can see all the gunk on my blade from all the things I've been opening and cutting with this thing. But this is one of my favorite live blades in my collection. I mean, one of my favorite knives in my collection, period. And this was a balisong that I tried at Blade Show for the first time, didn't really know anything about, became super obsessed with, and then bought. Almost on impulse a few weeks later when they dropped this one on their website. Except this time, I bought one straight for their booth. And when I did, because I figured for $100 more than the Aeon, why not get something titanium and G10 and customizable? Because the gimmick here, dear viewers, it's not even a gimmick, it's kind of just awesome, is the amount of customization that you can do on this thing. You might notice that there's two different distinct segments of the scales, and that is on purpose, because these are two different scales. Because you can get a whole bunch of different options for the Aeon V2. You want different color top space or top scales? Go for it. You want different color bottom scales? Go for it. Do you want different material spacers? Go for it. Do you want different material scales? They sell aluminum scales that you can put on this thing. So one of the builds that I saw at Blade Show was a G10 black top with anodized blue aluminum scales at the bottom. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to buy one of these because eventually I can do that. And when I did purchase it, my expectation was, okay, this is $450 for a knife that probably should cost way more. They're going to dump it in a cardboard box. They're going to throw it at me. They're going to say, have a nice day. Thank you for your money. Oh, how wrong I was, because they went under the table and they pulled out this thing and they went thunk. Look at the unboxing experience that you get with this thing. Not only do you get short scales, because there's long scales here. You know, they go up to the end of the blue here. You get the short versions. You get a sheath. You get a really nice care card that is really brief yet still in depth enough. You get like product services that they offer, a quick little care guide, instructions on the spacer weight pins, because you can't put all of them at once just because of how it's set up. Although that might only be the floating spacers. So on this one, I think I'd be able to put in all 4 weight pins. You get an authenticity card, you get the weight pins themselves, and you get a little stubby screwdriver with both a T10 bit and a T8 bit. And then for $50 more, they offered me this, which you'll notice my Aeon is a little bit different than the last time that you guys saw it, because I sprung for the extra spacers to get the opposite of what I already had. What I had before was blue top and black bottom, and I paid extra for the opposites so that I could get the black top and blue bottom with the black spacers. So now I can get, if they ever release those blue aluminum spacers, I can get those for down here, and I can rebuild that one that I loved at their table. Also, I think it was my favorite flipping one. We'll get to that in the flipping section in just a bit. But my goodness, what an unboxing experience. Sure, there's no extra hardware, which I would have loved to see, but honestly, the screwdriver alone makes me happy enough. Also, a quick tip for anyone if you do buy this set. The screwdriver, I thought, it's not magnetic, and I thought you just kind of had to loosely put the bits in there. But if you press down, they do kind of lock into place. So that's nice. There was a little bit of frustration before I realized that. Thankfully, I did realize that because I used all of that to change the look of this thing, and I am so happy with it. I think it looks so nice. Not that it didn't before, but I am a big fan of the blue on black rather than the black on blue. And I have the extras. So essentially, I have 4 colorways right now because I can do black and blue, blue and black, blue and blue, black and black, and then I can change the spacers. I've got the shorter spacers. I've even got the shorter black spacers. There's just a lot here. And check out how these actually go together. You can see on the bottom spacers, there's this cutout here. It's a circle. And then you can see the puzzle piece that fits into it on the top spacers. So you sandwich those together, and then you put an admittedly T8 screw through them to hold them in place, and then you have the whole slab that stays together if you're ever disassembling it and you're not taking the scales off. It's genius. I wish they were T10 because I hate T8 screws, but I understand that they might have had space limitations, whatever. It was really easy to pull apart and put back together. I'm not going to say that you should do it. You should listen to the care guide and only do it if you are confident, but I've taken apart and put back together many balisongs over the course of my time in this hobby, so it wasn't that bad. Now, the one thing that I was sad about to miss out on compared to the Peon was the sound, because the Peon had that awesome vibration and the way that it resonated, it just sounded so cool. And you can't really hear how balisongs sound at Blade Show because it's just so loud in there. So it was one thing that I was willing to take a hit on. Until I woke up the next day and flipped this thing while everyone else was getting ready, and I heard the most beautiful thing ever. I hope it comes through on camera. I'm not sure if it will, but it doesn't vibrate like the Peon, but it does do like that resonation. It kind of sounds like a wooden wind chime, but like really toned down. Like it's not that loud. It's such a subtle sound to this thing, and I adore it. I was stoked when I heard that for the first time because it is everything that I wanted out of the Peon without the weird vibration that the Peon does. Now, the vibration is very cool, and I enjoy that aspect of the Peon, but if you aren't used to it, it can feel a little off while you're flipping. This gives you all the benefits, but none of the drawback, and it freaking rocks. It's awesome. Not to mention that the whole thing sounds good, even without that extra sound that you get. But Ethan, how's the flipping? You had to be impressed with that if you purchased one of these. Well, obviously I was. This thing I have to also compare to the Slift TV2, because the Slift TV2 is a balisong that I've always described as not being in my preference range. It's more handle bias than I usually like. It doesn't have as much tip weight as I usually like, but yet I love how it flips. It's agile, it's light, it does what I want it to, and it's controllable above all else. The Peon is very similar. This goes against everything that I am usually interested in a balisong. It's G10, which I usually don't like. Yet the G10 here has never felt chalky to me. Even in the dirty, disgusting nature of Blade Show where all of your knives feel gross, never had an issue. It's never felt chalky. It's felt amazing. It's some of the best G10 I have felt on a balisong, and I say that as a general G10 hater. The handles are more blocky than I typically like, but I really don't notice it because there's a genius thing here. The bottom scales are concave, I think. Concave where it goes in, so it's like, the faces come in a little bit. Good for grip down here, especially if you're going to do something like a choker fan. It gives you more control. But then a little higher up, where you're usually fanning, you can see that the scales are actually convex, so they are rounded up here. It's genius. I love it so much. It's so controllable, and it's so nice. The jimping is great. The grip is great because of the G10. It's all great. This is an excellent flipping balisong, and look at this. They did G10 correctly, which is interesting. They did jimping correctly. because there is a little bit of a line here where there isn't any jimping, but you can't really feel it because if I rub my hand on, or if I rub my finger on this flat part that looks like it has no jimping, my hand still touches the titanium. And if my hand even goes a little bit off axis, I get the jimping that's on the corners here. So they kind of did the opposite of what LDY did with the new Orion and actually made it so that you're touching jimping at every point on the balisong, including on the inside and outside of the handles. It's wonderful. It's awesome. I love it. The one complaint that I have, the flipping is excellent. I mean, you look at this thing and you go, wow, that's a lot of blade weight. It's probably got a lot of blade bias to it. Probably doesn't do rollovers very well, right? Not at all. It actually rollovers and chaplains mostly really well. Fans are amazing. Choker fans are amazing. It carries such a good amount of momentum. My one problem with it is that sometimes, not always, I will pick it up and it just won't want to chaplain properly. I shouldn't say chaplain properly. It just feels a little bit unsteady on the chaplains. Sometimes. Sometimes I'll pick it up and it'll feel completely fine. I can rip on it with no problem. No issue. It's awesome. No complaints. And then other times I can drop it directly on my foot. Ow. Other times I'll pick it up and then the chaplains will feel just a little bit off, like I don't fully trust that it's going to stay on my finger. Usually it does, and usually that resolves itself within a few minutes of me flipping it as I get more used to the balance, but there is a little bit of weirdness there. But the beauty is that I can change that, because the aluminum will be a little bit, I think, heavier than the G10 down here, which will add more handle weight to the end of the handles, which will make the chaplains a little bit better. And that's actually the configuration that I flipped at Blade Show that was my favorite, the hybrid G10 aluminum with the aluminum spacers. Because come on, how cool is that? G10 spacers spacers, I keep saying that. G10 scales and aluminum scales on the same balisong, that freaking rocks. That's awesome. And the customization is another awesome aspect of this, because their Aeon platform, if you go on their website, you can see they've got different blades. You've got all the different materials that you can make the spacers out of and the scales out of. You've got the different colors that they offer. It's just such an awesome platform, and you can customize this really to your heart's content. Sorry about that. I ran out of space on my camera, which is, signs that I have to wrap it up. I have to stop ranting about how much I like this thing. So, as I was saying, my hope is that maybe the community will pick this up and we get some like rep style mods for it if you want different spacers, or maybe people start anodizing the titanium on it. There's so many things that you could do with this thing, and I absolutely love it. The other thing that people are going to say is, Ethan, don't you not like the way that the blade is? Because you used to say with the kite that it's really confusing to wow, that's actually much more different than I thought it was. I forgot the kite was like angled like that. Anyway, because you always used to say that the kite is confusing to flip and you always feel weird when you flip it. I think the kite kind of walked so that this style of blade could run in my mind, because I have not had a single issue flipping this and being on the bite handle when I think I'm on the safe handle or anything like that. Now, granted, it is also a false lie blade, so it doesn't really matter if I do make that mistake. But I think something has clicked in my head where that's not really an issue for me anymore, which is really nice. Or maybe it's just because this blade shape, like, this looks like a more traditional Tonto where it kind of goes off to a point. So you could see how there could be a cutting edge here. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but this looks, even when I'm flipping it, like the cutting edge should be over here. Just the way that this swoops and kind of the way that this side is completely flat. I don't know, it really does look like it is supposed to be the cutting edge. Even though this is the same way, I don't know why the kite just never really clicked in my head. Maybe flipping the kite again. Wow, the kite feels really weird. I think it's the carbon fiber. I think I'm starting to wake up to the fact that I don't like carbon fiber very much on balisongs either. But that's a whole nother discussion. Holy cow, I'm getting so off track. The blade doesn't really bother me. In fact, I think it's beautiful. This whole balisong is beautiful. I'm so impressed by it, and I'm so happy to own one. So huge props to Andrew Myers. And thank you guys for watching. I was only able to buy one of these because you guys give Google your time in watching the ads, and Google gives me money for that. So thank you guys for allowing me to spend way more than I ever bargained to or planned to at Blade Show. And I can still be okay because it's perfectly within the budget that I've been saving up from this channel specifically for this purpose. So I've got a few more things that I'm excited to talk to you about in Blade Show, or that I bought from Blade Show. So if this isn't your thing, even though I highly recommend that you check one of these out if you're interested, maybe one of the other things will be a little more up your alley. Until then, though, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.